Good morning and thank you for joining us on International Desk as we delve into one of the most pressing issues in the Middle East, that is the tense and complex relationship between Israel and Iran. Tensions continue to rise between these two regional powerhouses, and the world watches closely, mindful of the potential consequences of Iran's over 300 missiles and drone attacks on Israel on Saturday in what Iranian military described as retaliatory attack, the first direct attack ever. Stay with us as we analyze the latest developments and hear from a former defense attaché to Israel between 2003 and 2007 on what the future may hold. Good morning, Dr. Adekunle Olawumi. Good morning.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, and let me quickly chip in that Dr. Olawumi is a retired Commodore and currently the HOD Department of Criminology and Security Studies, Chrisland University, Abeokuta. Now, let us begin with how the conflict escalated, bearing in mind that it was the first ever attack and Israel and Iran had a close...
But the main issue is the issue of nuclear proliferation. That is the main issue. Any country that is trying to be a member of the atomic race are always seen as a threat to the hegemon at the global level. So that background is very important. Issue of biological weapon, nuclear weapon, and to Americans, the stability of the Middle East. You know, Iran and Saudi Arabia, they are the two leaders of the major Islamic groups, like you talk about the Shiites and maybe you talk about the Sunnis, you know. So these are the background to what you're saying, religious issue, economic issue, you know, that has to do with the Middle East. And the third issue is issue of nuclearization of that zone. They don't want any other state to have nuclear power within that zone, except Israel. Even when Saudi Arabia tried to think about it, it was really brought down. So these are the three fundamental issues: economic, issue of threat of nuclear proliferation, and the issue that has to do with the safety of Israel, the Jewish state. Recall also that Israel itself is a proxy of the United States of America, and they need Israel to be stable and to be powerful, to be able to keep Middle East, you know, quiet and easy to do business with. So how did this really happen? It's because the puppet of the United States, you know, is there to make sure that it keeps all these countries busy. And when they, on April 1st, if I remember, when they attacked the embassy, basically, of Iran in Damascus, under international law, that's crossing the red line. You don't attack embassy of another country. Because the embassy of any country, within that scope, it means the land or the state itself. So it's like attacking Iran directly. And I think Iran felt that enough is enough from Israel. And they decided to attack them. And that's why we're here today.
Well, would you say the Western allies of Israel were biased because they did not actually react to Israel's attack on Iran's embassy in Damascus? Rather, they focused on the social welfare workers that were killed. It happened the same day, right? So it was more about the World Central Kitchen members that were killed, not even the attack on Iran's embassy. So would you say they are biased in all of this?
No, it's actually beyond that, you know. All these things are planned, they are stage managed. Even the attack is stage managed so that it can carry the noise you are seeing, the signature you are seeing, instead of what they were planning to do either the next day or day after. So it's not like they're biased. All these things are planned. The West and the East, talking about former Soviet Union now, they're just at play. And it's more complex than we normally think it is. Why I say it's complex is, when the game starts, it's like a war game, what you saw. They're testing their weapons. They are checking whether, the signature of Iranian weapon, which is predominantly, Russian weapons. The Russians too are using Iran as a proxy to check the Western latest technology. So it's like a game, and the big picture, it's not about biasness now. The big picture is business. The military industrial complexes all over the world. It is their war, basically. So, but to say they are biased, I think it's an understatement. They are actually biased, but biased in what way? It's about business. It's about it's like a war game, like playing chess. They do these things, and at the end of the day, it's basically an economic war.
Okay, now let's talk about the consequences of this conflict for the region.
Consequences for the region, it just to ensure that the West have the upper hand in the region. There's no consequences. They just want to have the upper hand there because the Chinese are coming. Chinese, they are emerging. And they're in those spaces, Then the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, Russia, they're also looking for energy. So it's about energy, weapons, and so on. But the consequences, I know they're going to ensure that it does not escalate further. Mm. That is, as sure as I'm talking to you, it's not going to escalate further. Forget about what you see on social media and so on. All those ones who are stage managed, people are paid to throw things on social media, Twitter, and so on. But being somebody that knows how this thing works, it's not going to escalate. If I tell you what really happened, you don't see some of them on some of the social media. The skirmishes you saw looks like, oh, Iran, they failed. They did not fail. They achieved the objective perfectly. So, Saudi Arabia, yeah, they achieved the objective. How do they achieve the objective?
Yeah.
Then that may take me into the technical issues, They tested their weapons and it was efficient. And they got what they wanted. I'm talking about Iran. Mm-hmm. If I want to break it down, I don't know, you don't have time. If I want to break it down, they fired 3 waves of weapons. They fired the drones, they fired the cruise missile, then they fired the ballistic missile. Why did they do that? They wanted to see how they can break the air defense of Israelis. Sure. And that was why I said, they did it and said, okay, we are done. We're not going to go further than this, even before the operation was over. And actually, those weapons were efficient, they were effective. What they did was, technically, they first of all sent a very loud, programs. That's, they announced we are coming. 5 hours even before the weapon, get to the destination, we are coming. They make sure that the drones were very noisy, very slow. I mean, they were making like 175 kilometers per hour, and they are going to transit through in 9 hours. So if you are making 175 kilometers per hour and you are going to a target that is 9 hours away, what effectiveness would that be for Iran? But they did. They now sent the second wave, which was the cruise missiles. And by the time they were sending the ballistic missile, what they really did was, the ballistic missile was having like 3 stages. So the first stage is, when it was entering the airspace, it releases some bomblets that makes the Israeli to think that one missile now is showing like, I'm 15, I'm 25. And the Israeli pick up those and they start shooting down imaginary missiles, And the second one has another booster phase that when they were busy firing those fake ones, That one now went on a very, very high speed and hit all the targets they wanted to hit.
Without casualties?
Yes, because they knew they evacuated that place. They knew attack was coming. So you cannot move the equipment, the airplanes and so on, but you can ask people to leave the place. So I think Iran, they've seen now that they can beat Israelis, you know, in their game, which is umbrella cover of their airspace. So these are the reasons sometimes why they do what they did. That technology may be from Russia, for instance, and Russia has been able to test these weapons against the heaven shield, you know, of Israel. And Israeli now, they understand now that they should not try Iran, that they can actually deal with them if they really want. So that is what happened.
Okay, we'll talk about whether or not Israel will retaliate, will attack Iran. But then let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Yes, you're still watching OGTV, and it's still International Desk live on the People's Telly. Dr. Olaomi, let's talk about the role of non-state actors like Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis, and all of this. Definitely, Iran did not act all alone.
Yes.
There has been proxy attacks and all that before now.
Yeah, but I think before we went on break, you were asking whether Israel will retaliate. They will not. But the follow-up question you just asked is very germane, because that's exactly what's going to start happening now. Israel has seen that they can beat their Iron Dome. They've seen it now. And they are going to tell the international intelligence bodies like MI6, you know, CIA, to focus now on using the proxies to attack Iran. That means they're going to activate the ISIS, I'm talking about the Israeli-sponsored terrorist organizations. You know. And Iran they're just going to do the same. So they're going to use Hezbollah, they're going to use Hamas, and some other ones in the Houthis, you know, in those ones in Jordan. They're going to start using them to disrupt their economic line of communication. They're going to keep them busy for some time. Also, yesterday or today, Israel have started attacking the Hezbollahs in northern Israel.
West Bank.
West Bank, yeah. And they're also doing things that may make Iranians to be very uncomfortable, because if they hit the Hezbollah so hard, they are not allowing Syria to also operate. They are keeping watch on Syria. Yes, I think the next phase we are going to see is going to be more of proxies. And don't think it's only Iran that has proxies. Israel and the United States have very formidable proxies, terrorist organization that they have been, you know, sponsoring there over the years. So they are going to unleash all those terrorist cells now against Iran in particular. If you saw what happened in Iran recently, the riot in Iran, so they're going to go also into clandestine operations inside Iran as well. And Israel is not really also immune from imploding from Tel Aviv, because Netanyahu now is in trouble. He has an election ahead. He has corruption charges against him. The population are not really happy with him, and he's just trying to keep fighting to retain what I would call legitimacy. So you're going to see more of implosion within Iran and implosion within Israel, because the political environment in both countries are very ripe for internal instability. So you're going to see more of proxy attacks and internal, you know, dynamics that's going to be very unsettled, even for Israel itself.
Okay, I want us to talk about sanctions now, if sanctions will be that effective. The Iranian president, Raisi, has said his part that should there be any provocation, further provocations, it will react, and the consequences will be very dire. Now, U.S. is threatening further sanctions. The Israeli foreign minister had written about 32 countries that they should react to the attack. The fact that Iran used missiles and all of that, do you think the sanctions will be that effective?
Sanction doesn't work. We've seen it everywhere. Iran has been under sanction forever.
Oui.
Indefinitely, they've been under, but they are still able to make progress because it's not possible in the international environment to have a unified, sanction on a particular country. So if the West puts sanction on Iran, yeah, they can go to China, they can go to North Korea, they can go to Russia and so many other countries, even Brazil, even Cuba. One of the members of the Axis of Evil is also Cuba. So for me, sanction, look at what they did to Russia after they attacked Ukraine. What has happened? They started the BRICS program, and for me, I think the Russian ruble is even stronger now than before the war. So sanction doesn't work. What sanction does, when you hear the West telling sanction, what they simply do is it's like piracy, let's say Nigeria is dependent on, let's say, the Americans' aircraft now, and all the spare parts, everything has to come, the logistics, and follow-up has to come with the United States. So if they sanction Nigeria, which they've done several times, it's not that we are not going to get the spare parts for the fighter jets. What it's going to do is that it's going to make it more expensive. So sanction always find job for the boys and for the Americans that are into that business. So if I'm importing, let's say, F-16 aircraft from US at, let's say, $100 million, and then also we are putting sanction on Nigeria. What we are going to do, because we must keep flying our F-16, what we are going to do is to go through Turkey and through other proxies of Nigeria. We tell Turkey, can you buy us these spare parts on F-16 since you have F-16? So they will buy, then we go to Turkey and take. That's what happened in
well, that means economically it does have effect.
The effect we have on us is that we are going to pay more. Nigeria will now pay more for an F-16 spare parts than if we buy directly from them. So it's done deliberately to increase the costs of whatever they are producing, because the F-16 spare parts is still going to come from America anyway, but we are taking it through Turkey, and the middlemen, they're going to pay, if it's 100 million, we're going to pay like maybe 300 million. So to that extent, you are smart, the sanction is working because we are paying more, but it's not like we will not get it at all. So that's what has been happening with Russia, with other eastern flanks. If you say we shouldn't do something, the boundary, I think Iran is going to deal with them.
Okay, let's round off with the lessons that can be learned from past attempts to resolve conflicts in the Middle East and how this might be applied to Israel-Iran crisis.
There's no lesson, because whatever you're saying happening in the Middle East is designed that way. Nothing is going to change. They're going to keep on fighting, because the more they fight, the more they have access to the oil. So nothing's going to change.
So what next after this? What are you expecting?
I expect that at the end of the day, the NATO countries are going to prevail over the former Warsaw Pact, and because they are good at what they are doing. So what next? Israel is going to have a stronger legitimacy now than before.
Israel?
Israel. Israel is not a legitimate country. It's just a proxy. It's prop brought there to usurp that space. When they do things like this, it gives them more legitimacy. It reinforces their authority and their presence in the Palestinian land. So I think Israel is gaining from this, and I think Iran also has actually make it clear to Israel that stop all this your rascality, we will attack you directly and nothing will happen.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Adekunle Olawumi. I quite enjoy your submissions in all of this. So and that brings us to the end of International Desk for this week. Do join us same time next week for a fresh edition. Till then, I am Mojisola Shulaja. Goodbye.